Welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network, coming to you from the TeacherCast studios since 2011. Join us each week as we bring you the latest educational news, ed-tech updates, and hottest interviews with today's most influential leaders in education. And now, for your host, Jeff Bradbury.
Hello and welcome to Digital Learning Today, a brand new show from TeacherCast. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for taking the time and joining us. Each and every week, we are going to be bringing you amazing stories from educators who are creating a culture of digital learning in their classrooms. And we're going to be giving you guys the tips and tricks to do so in your own school districts and classrooms. This week, we're looking forward to the FETC Conference. I am about to get on an airplane to head down to Orlando, spend an entire week with 10,000 amazing educators. If you happen to catch the first episode of this podcast, last week we had Jennifer Womble on. Jennifer's been doing an amazing job with her team at putting together this conference, and we are looking forward to not only seeing over 600 great presentations, but also spending some time down in that vendor hall, meeting some people in the hallways, and there might be a little bit of singing on the It's a Small World ride. Who knows? But we're looking forward to it. So if you're going to be down in Florida and you're listening to this, please feel free to reach out. I'd love to meet you, love to see you. Don't forget that on Friday of this week, we're going to be doing our coaches workshop down there. How to become more productive as an instructional coach. We're going to be showing you our tips and tricks of how to create data dashboards, how to make the perfect newsletter, build the perfect website. We might be showing you off some of our favorite Notion dashboards. Who knows? We have 2 hours to work with some great instructional coaches. I am looking forward to it. I hope you guys are too. There are several great ways that you can reach out and be a part of this show each and every week. Of course, you can always find us on iTunes, Apple, Spotify, all that great stuff. But we're also in the process right now of redesigning TeacherCast. That's right, new year. And one of the things that we're going to be working on over the next few weeks is launching a brand new Instructional Coaches network, a brand new TeacherCast, and a whole mess of brand new things. And we're going to try to work back to getting onto our monthly schedule of doing some webinars for instructional coaches and for digital learning leaders. So don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and check us out each and every week. Of course, in addition to this show, we've got our Ask the Tech Coach podcast, and this week we are relaunching our Jeff Bradbury podcast. One of the favorite things that I've been able to do is to get all 3 of our shows back up and running, and the first episode on the Jeff Show is with our good friend Adam Bello from Breakout EDU, somebody who I'm also looking forward to seeing down in Florida. So I hope you guys have a chance to check out all the great things happening over at the TeacherCast Educational Network. My guest today is the Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning for a fantastic school district in Massachusetts. He's a podcaster, the CEO of X Factor EDU, and he's going to be presenting this year at the FETC Conference. I want to bring on today my good friend, Mr. Matthew Joseph. Matt, how are you doing? Welcome to Digital Learning Today.
Thanks, Jeff. It's awesome. And thanks for reaching out. I love to connect with folks. I love to talk shop, and I love getting excited for FETC. And I think it's one of my favorite events of the year because it brings so many different people together, so many different roles. So I'm thrilled to be here and just talk shop.
I am excited for FETC. You know, we talked a little bit about this in our intro of the show. 10,000 people are going to be meeting next week in Florida to get together. We just launched the first episode of this particular podcast with Jen Womble. It was a great episode. I hope you guys have a chance to listen to that. But with 600 sessions and 10,000 people down there, what are you looking forward to the most? What do you go down there and put your sights on?
So I think I look at it in twofold. So for me, I take the connections with individuals first. I learned so much from just talking to individuals, listening to folks, going to sessions that push my thinking. I don't need to go down there and be affirmed like, yeah, I do that. Let me see how else I can see that. But I want to learn something new. I think especially around, I think the easy answer on this is, we want to learn AI. That's the new thing. But for me, I want to learn how to enhance our teachers to move from participation to engagement. I think where we look at the tech tools right now is the shiny new thing. Oh, that's cool. This is really interesting, but how does it enhance our student learning? So I'm going to find sessions that really push my thinking and allow me to bring back instructional strategies, because I'm not in the classroom. I have to educate myself on what is going to impact students, and then visiting the vendor hall, just going through and seeing what products are up there, because staying really abreast of what's out there is going to help me bring that back to the district and say, here's what it'll help in this subject area, here's what will help in this domain. So I think really balancing it with meeting with individuals who push my thinking, and then finding some tools that'll enhance our learning within the district.
You know, it seems like every conference does have that three-legged stool. You're going to spend some time in the session, some time at the vendor hall. And one of my favorite parts is just hanging out in the hallways, meeting people, talking to people, making those connections, reconnecting with people that you might not have seen in a while. When you're walking around a conference like this, do you keep your eyes up and looking around, or are you one of those people that, you know, it's on the list, it's on the agenda, I got to go to that session, that's the end of the story?
No, I am an eyes up, handouts, see who I can give a high five to, connect with the selfie, see multiple people, see how people are. I think one of the things, you know, the benefits of what we do now online is you get to see and connect with folks who live across the world in different states, and you get to know them. And then when you see them in person, you get to talk and sit down, and it removes all of the outside factors. And you get to see, like, hey, what's up? How's it going? What inspires you? What have you learned? Or just how was your trip? And just getting to know people. And I think we got away from that in our field. And the more that we get together and start to know people as individuals, it's just inspiring. And you take that with you and bring that back to your district, and that same energy you then bring into your job.
I totally agree with that. And there's so many sessions that are out there that are going to help teachers relate to their curriculum, create standard-based curriculum out of all this new technology integration. I'm looking forward, of course, to seeing all of our instructional coaching friends down there on Friday. We're doing our 2-hour workshop at 10:30 on Friday about empowering educational coaches to be more productive. And one of the things that I'll be showing off at that workshop is, how do you think of yourself not just as an educational coach, but really as that entrepreneur in the classroom? You are building your program, you're building your own capability for change in your school. You're going to be doing a session similar to that on Thursday at 2:30 called Empowering Edupreneurs, Nurturing Innovation in Education. Talk to us a little bit about that. How do we create innovation as these edupreneurs that we're all turning out to be?
Yeah, so one of the things I did last year, I wrote the book, Always Stop at a Lemonade Stand, because it really shows how students can just do things on their own. They can get lemonade, they can sell it. And I know it's a metaphor for schools, but for me in that session, I'm going to bring those strategies to let students create, and moving from just consumers of content to creators of content. And, you know, one of the things I often say is that students don't come to school to watch teachers work. They need to be doing that. And how are we giving the students the skills? And moreover, how are we creating the culture within a classroom that students feel that they can share their information, that they can share their thoughts? And I think it's really, that session is going to be about how are we empowering our students to really advocate for themselves, not just for what they need, but for what they know.
I love that you're looking at that from that student lens, because so much in education right now is happening around making sure that the students are doing and creating and everything. But, you know, as educational leaders, we also need to make sure that we have those boundaries and those rules around them, especially in the world of AI and creativity. And, oh, here's a free app, let me bring that into my classroom. Well, sometimes there's not, there's a privacy agreement that needs to be signed, and sometimes there's other things that's going on. Talk to us a little bit about how you are managing this in your district. You had mentioned that you have 25 buildings.
Yeah.
That's a lot of privacy agreements. That's a lot of making sure the right training is going on. How do you set up your program in your districts to be successful in creating that culture for digital innovation?
I think, what you said, we have 25 schools, we have 18 elementary schools, and I work primarily supporting our elementary schools. And one of the things that we look at is less is more. And it sounds silly, like, well, we should bring in these tools and that one and this one. But for me, it's about picking few things and do them really well and go deeper into them and find out how to, you train our teachers, we work with our staff, we support our students, we support the family so that they know these resources really well. And then it's about ensuring that they fill a need. So it's not just like, let's pick 5 that I like the best, but let's find something that talks about creativity, something that talks about writing, something that is creative. So we have our tools like, Edpuzzle, and we have, Padlet, and we have Flip. So because they fill a need, it allows for students to showcase their learning, but within a resource that we can continue to give training on. So I think it really helps that when we do the less is more, we can support just that much more because there's not a wealth of them to work on.
And that seems to be a theme more and more as I have educational technology leaders on the show, right? Let's not have 300 applications. There's way too much to cover. There's way too much to service. Let's come up with a core of 50-ish or so that we can use, maybe a little higher than 75 to somewhere, but in that smaller range.
Manageable amount.
Manageable, right? We're still in that world where we're used to the free from the pandemic that is now being paid, or that companies are now ramping up their prices a little bit to compensate for services and dollars lost. What is your vision when putting something like this together? How does it start? How do you create that vision? How do you start to build that culture with your leadership team? Maybe you can share with us, like, what does your council look like when it comes to digital innovation?
Yeah, I think I approach a lot in this field like business. I talk about that a lot. We should run schools like startup CEOs and ask questions and push the thinking. And I think I approach it very similar. I don't say, what problem are you trying to solve? Because it's not necessarily solving problems, but that's in the business world. How is this going to help us solve problems? But in schools, it's how is this going to enhance learning? And if the answer is, it's just cool, then it's not a fit. If it is enhancing learning, then we can have a discussion. And then we drill down. I've had, just this past week, a few staff members ask me about different sites. And, going back to the first question you asked about FETC and going into meeting vendors and getting well-versed, I can answer questions when someone shows me an app that we don't have the privacy agreement, that is a freemium where you get it free for 30 days. And then if you don't pay, we can talk through and say, I won't say which tool, but, this tool looks great, but Canva does very similar tasks and we have all the agreements in an account. So why don't I help you with that? So having those conversations, leaving central office and going right into the teacher's classroom and having the conversation. And for me, I really like that because, one, it shows trust, it values the person. And it's not just like, no, we're going to lock this down, or no, you can't use that website. It's, I see the goal you're looking for, but we have resources in-house that'll support that.
But that's not always easy, right? Conference time is that opportunity for teachers to go out and find things. And, I've been in situations where somebody sees they see the shiny apple and they see the news about this new feature and they want to do this, and I don't want to say you have your vision. I'll say the district has its vision. And if that vision doesn't have this new shiny feature, those are hard conversations to have. And those are hard opportunities to kind of say to those staff members, like, this is where we're going, trust the system. We're building a system. You want to come in and join us on the system. Just because option B is available, we're working on this train track here. How does a school district keep moving forward when every time you turn around, there's a new company, there's a new widget, there's a new tchotchke, there's a new something that's not part of that vision, but other people are sitting there going, but I want that.
Yeah, and I think so one of the things that I look at is where's the difference between the must-haves and nice-to-haves. And I want a lot of things in my role and in my life, but if they're nice-to-haves, I don't think I'm going to get them all. But if there's certain things like we need this software for our EL students, we're going to look into it and find the best one. Or we need this for our administrators when we do walkthroughs, so we're not carrying around a huge laptop. Let's look for at a Surface or a different kind of tablet, and really drilling down what is at the heart of the task that you're looking to do, and then find the tool that matches. Because too often in our profession, we just throw technology at things. I'm going to buy the whole special ed team iPads. Well, why? I don't know, because we have extra money. We didn't have that many snow days this year. And then it becomes just a $500 worksheet if we don't train them. And I think another piece is around communicating the vision. It might sit in a binder somewhere or on the school website, but if you're not visible and you're not in the school, so I'm new this year in this district, and I'm in the schools every day, Sharon. Here's what first, here's who I am. Hi, nice to meet you. And then trying to run PD or share some strategies so that the staff can trust me. Because if I do have to say no, like, I want this, well, it's not a fit. I want that to be the first time they see me. And I think that's part of that us and them strategy around technology, is where the technology staff making decisions are nowhere to be seen. So because I work very closely with schools and with our tech department, I'm out there and I'm talking to folks. So that's a big part of bridging that gap, is getting to know people.
One of the things that you and I have in common is our love for educational technology and tech integration, digital learning, but also on that same part, you and I have a deep integration ourselves with ASCD. Yes. I know you're the president of Massachusetts ASCD. I'm on the board. I'm on the board for Connecticut ASCD, and I know we both have this idea where technology integration is great, but we still have to focus on making it standards based, and everything is being driven by the curriculum. Talk to us a little bit about how you're trying in your new role to bring in that, curriculum and the technology. I gotta just say, I'm tired of hearing, both as an administrator and as a coach, we're not doing tech this year. We're focusing on standards. And I cringe when I hear that. How do you put that together? I'll even say, how do you convince somebody that should be this? Those are one thing, right? Like, technology.
Yeah, I think that's a whole webinar series.
There's another podcast in there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's multiple. And I think that's the tricky part, because we get stuck in it. And one of the things I share is I've worked in 2 districts as a principal in Massachusetts. One district, we had 67% free and reduced lunch. In the second district, we had 1% free and reduced lunch. And they use the same curriculum, same textbooks. So it's not necessarily just about the textbook or the curriculum. It's about how you bring that curriculum to life. So for me, it does start with the curriculum and the standards, because we have to have fidelity to that to ensure there's equitable learning opportunities. That is at the forefront. But what I do with teachers and staff is say, show me what you would teach for this lesson. And I'm like, okay, here's some strategies to enhance it. Oh, you're going to do a 4-paragraph essay? How about we do it in Docs? How about we all do it in Google Docs, and then you hyperlink it to one Google slide? Now you have a classroom blog. And they're like, what? We don't have a classroom blog. Well, you did your 4-paragraph essay on Google Docs, and then you linked it to a Google slide. You have a blog now. And just trying to close that gap. You still reach the standards of vivid verbs and complete sentences and grammar and everything we need to hit the standard, but you added some relevancy by putting some of our tech tools and then letting them add, maybe they put their voice in there, maybe they put a picture they like. And I think, again, going back to building those relationships and knowing people, the trust to say, just try it. I'll be here with you. And I think that's where you meld them together, is don't change what they're doing, but coach them. And you know this as an experienced coach, on enhancing what they already do.
And all of that has to be stemming from the strategic goals, right? Somewhere in the strategic vision, it has to say, we are moving in this direction, or we are looking to bring in technology integration, or we are like everything that this department is doing, everything that this, technology movement is happening needs to come from the top, needs to be bought in by the community, by the board, by the cabinet.
Yeah.
This is where we're going. Talk to us a little bit about what your plan is, or how this is working in your first year.
So I try to demystify it, first of all. So I just did Wednesday mornings. We have like staff meetings, short PDs, and I've been trying to do one every Wednesday at a different school. And one of the things I say is, if you're looking for permission to try some of these from some mystery person to give permission, you have it. I'm the assistant superintendent. You try something. And part of that is demystifying, like, you're not going to break the computer. I'd rather you try something, because you were just talking about standards. What we really need is to build the critical thinking and computational thinking of students. So if we're just doing the same thing of call and response, or just transferring learning to a worksheet or a digital worksheet, then we're not enhancing that. So I think the way I've tried to do that is demystify it. Go in, talk to them, show me what you do, and meet people where they are. And too often, coaches go in and show them the biggest bells and whistles. Yeah. And some staff just get turned off, and they're like, I can't do that. Or I show them a website I built, and they're barely completing like a form online. So why would I do that and go and be like, check this out? And then they're like, I'm going to turn this guy off. But show them some things where I started, or here's an entry level, or here's how to use a certain tool to, instead of your paper monthly notice to families, do it on Google Drive, do it on slides, and do one every month, and then it's saved. And just showing them real-time examples, which goes back to the first question you asked. Those are the things that I'm looking for when I go to FETC, how to bring practical solutions to schools, because I haven't been in the classroom, but yet I support classrooms every day, and I want to meet people where they are. So those are the sessions I love to go to, or vendor hall, or meet some teachers like, Heather Brantley. She's a teacher down in Texas. I love to listen to her because she's talking about stuff she does in her class.
I'm so glad that you mentioned all of that. One of the things that we talk a lot about on our show, Ask the Tech Coach, is don't overdo it, right? You see all these tech that are out there, and they want to build, I'll call it God's gift to their tech coaching website. And
there you go. Yeah.
And I've been on this kick over the last couple of years of, it's good to do that, but call that your website. Like build the shrine to yourself and use it as your handbook. Don't expect a fifth grade teacher to bookmark that and look at it every 5 seconds.
Exactly.
But if you're going to sit down with that fifth grade teacher, absolutely. I'd rather have you have, all the bells and the whistles at your fingertips than to sit down and in the, the short amount of time you have with that teacher, you're searching Google Drive for things that you can't, like, build the website that you want to have, and then build the second one that looks like something they can do.
Right.
And you said it, it's very easy for somebody in a coaching position to come in and go, I want to impress.
Right.
And you turn them off in the first 5 seconds of being there, because you walk in and look, I'm guilty about this too 10, 15 years ago. Like, hi, I'm wearing my Google Trainer shirt. Well, that turns you off. Like,
I'm out.
we
Right.
learned that one the hard way. Talk to us a little bit about, I'm assuming 25 buildings. Do you have a strong, I don't want to say strong, but do you have an instructional coaching program up there?
We do. We have teacher leaders or teacher supports in schools, and they're empowered to support each of the schools. So there is a structure like that, and we work with that teaching and learning specialists, and they coach adults.
So they're teachers that also have coaching responsibilities?
No, they're only they have that because of the units, through unions and different things. So they have no teaching load, but they work with the building administration to support teachers through different teaching strategies and running, coaching sessions. We don't have learning coaches.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this, because this is a hot topic again on the Ask the Tech Coach podcast. When you're hiring a coach, even somebody at your level who's, you're full blown ISTE, I feel like you do this stuff. What do you look for in an instructional coaching resume?
So that's an interesting question. I'm going to take it a little different direction. So for the resume, I look for experience in the classroom, because too often we move individuals from a teaching position to administration position, expect them to be great at that job, which is a whole different job. So the first thing I look for is experience in the classroom, because the goal is to support the teachers. And I think having that capability is important. But where I really focus is the interviews. If they're open, if they're honest, if, my favorite is tell me a lesson that's bombed, and like, no, I have never had one. Like, no, I wanted to actually know how you've recovered from a bad lesson. I've had bad PD sessions. I've had a bad conversation with a colleague. Like, we've all been there. So what I really look for in a coach or a teacher leader in that capacity is the willingness to be open and honest, because you end up working with anywhere from 10 to 25 to 40 in a large, or 100 in a large high school adults. And it's a whole different skill set. So having that classroom experience so that you can bring validity to the feedback or coaching, and then the wherewithal to be honest about who you are, what you know, and bring that forward. And I learned that because I was an elementary principal. And when I moved into a district role and I'd go into a high school, I've never taught high school. I haven't taught Algebra 2, but I have to go in and talk about the strategies and value that person's teaching, and then bring in some things that can support them. So I think that's an avenue to really bring those. That's what I look for when I talk with prospective candidates, is how open and flexible are you, or else the teachers are going to see right through you.
I love having that vision for everything, right? And that's taking me back to all of my interviews and, for the last 15 years of putting all this together. I've been the coach in a medium-sized school district. I've been a lead coach out of 14 buildings with multiple coaches. I've hired coaches and I've led coaches. When you're working in a district that's 25 buildings, especially not in the building, you're sitting above the buildings and you're new.
You're right.
How do you build that family, or how are you building a coaching family? How are you building a coaching department where everybody has instant communication to each other? I'd love to actually have you ask that from both the personal, but the technology, meaning, are you using Teams? Are you using Google Drive? Are you like, what's the technology that's keeping you together? Because I'm assuming emails are rampant, but there's got to be a chat system. But how are you building that family unit together?
So it is hard, and there's no way I can come in here and be like, yes, everything's smooth and this is easy to do. We have 85 administrators between principals, vice principals, and we have seamless communication. No. But what we have is a structure through Google Classroom. So we built a classroom for principals so that we don't overload, as you said, the email. And there's very few people that have access to put into the classroom. So if there's something that's a task, or a real-time example, I put something in the classroom recently because we're running a professional development day. It's like, please have your staff sign up. Here's the link. Here's an assignment to you. So using that streamline through Google Classroom. And then we have a virtual binder in Google. So we have a virtual binder that we put all our district information, our field trip forms, our everything we need to more of an output. Like, we're going to stick it here and you can find it in folders within our virtual binder. So those are our two main hubs, the virtual binder for, I don't want to say static, but for more of the, let's place it here so everyone has access, and we use Google. And then for kind of the communication, we use the Google Classroom. And then I shared with you earlier about, every Tuesday we have principal meetings. We bring everybody together in one room for 3 hours a week, because to build that family, there's just so much you can do online. So we bring every week, the agendas are already set for the year, so you know what's going to be on it, you know what you need to come. And then one of the executive team runs part of that session from our EL department, sharing about access, which is happening now. Like, those are the things we talk about, so that we have that content point. And like you said in your answer about FETC, you see people in the halls, you talk to them, you get to know them. But when you see, the principals every week, it's great to catch up, or how's it going? How was your break? Because there are some schools I'm in much, much more than others. So having that time is critical.
Talking today to Matt Joseph, who's going to be doing some great sessions down at FETC. I want to talk about one more that you're doing here called Cultivating Innovative Leadership. I'm sure it dives right into what you were mentioning. What can we expect from this session on Friday at 9 a.m. to 9:45? You have 45 minutes to wow us about being an innovative leader. What are we going to be learning about that session?
So one of the things that that session is really changing mindsets. I talked about it early, operating like a startup CEO and asking questions. What if? What if we try this? What if we run podcasts within our schools? What if we do TED Talks instead of final exams? And just really having verbal brainstorms of way that we as leaders can change what we do. Maybe we have weekly podcasts that the superintendent does just solo so that the community can learn who they are, or finding ways to share artwork or dance or certain things within in our district. So it's really going to be challenging leaders to do things that are different and asking what if when they try something, and not just dust off what we've done for the last 5 years, but how are we going to evolve, asking what if and failing fast. Try something. If it works, build on it. If it doesn't, don't table it to the next meeting next month. Try something different.
That's awesome. And giving people, as you mentioned earlier, giving people the ability to do that and knowing that they have the backing that they can make those decisions. That is so important, especially in a world where everybody does seem to have some kind of pins and needles around them, where if I make a mistake, what's going to happen?
Absolutely. And removing that from the equation, obviously never be insubordinate, number one, but also at the same point, don't be afraid to take chances, because that's how the great things happen. Nobody said, I'm going to do this mediocre task, and you remember it 10 years later. You do something that you took a risk and it might have failed the first 3 times, and then you added a little extra, and it's a podcast you've been doing for 11 years or whatever it is. Like, that's how you do it.
And I would add on to that, don't be afraid when somebody does go out there and try, help them fail forward, right?
Absolutely. I agree.
So we talked about 2 of the arms of culture-driven innovation, right?
Yep.
Stemming everything from your strategic vision, backing it up with help from your strategic coaches and how they're, really being used as the answer for how do we make that strategic vision come alive. I want to shift over to one more topic here, which is how do you tell that story, right? At the end of the meeting, somebody's going to get up and say, how are you meeting your goals?
Sure.
You're talking through data. You're talking through data collection. You're talking through showing artifacts and archives of the research and the fun. Like, ultimately, people want to see the fun things that are happening in the classroom, and teachers are having fun, kids are great, and achievement and all that good stuff. But when it comes to showing this transformation that you're on right now with your district, how are your coaches helping collect that data? What does that look like? How is your department helping to tell that story through collection features? What does that look like, and where do you want to go with this, so that way you can be successful and you can show success in the position?
I think we're really utilizing social media. All our schools have Facebook pages, we have newsletters, and just through photos, just through celebrating the good and the positive. And we're reaching our goals when we highlight the work that we're doing. And I think the goal of it is to embrace our students and giving them a voice. And the more we celebrate them through our Facebook pages, through our cult, we had drum bands coming through, and a drum line came through, and just celebrating everything that we do, because enthusiasm is contagious. And the more that we can honor that, the more that people are going to be excited about that learning. And just through digital platforms, like I said, social media, for the newsletters, things like that, but also sharing. And we start every principals meeting by sharing something. And we sit at different tables every time, and just having that connection and learning from each other is where that really, the root of it is planted.
If you'd like to get a hold of Matt, there's several great places. My favorite one is going to be at FETC, where he's going to be doing several conferences. I heard there's also a nice theme park down the road if you want to go and spend a couple hours outside of the conference having some fun. Rumor has it I might be there on Monday doing a couple of good things. Matt, where can people reach out and find you?
It's hard to list some things up, but if you go here it's not video. So I was saying, if you go on screen, but my Twitter handle or X handle is @MatthewXJoseph. On there is the website, which has my email and everything to get a hold of me. Reach out. Happy to connect. I'd love to talk shop with you and support and learn from you as well. And I'll see you for those going down in Orlando as well.
The last thing I want to hit, and this is the Edupreneur talking here. Talk to me a little bit about the work you and your team are doing at X Factor.
I think the big goal of our team is there are people who are in the field like yourself, and we are bringing strategies to schools to support learning. And each one of us, have a role in a school with students in some capacity that are supporting learning. And we're just trying to bring resources through print media, through some webinars we're doing. We just launched a podcast network and just sharing what we have learned and supporting the field.
Nice. You can, of course, check all that stuff out at?
Well, I think that we can go to xfactor.link and check all that out.
We're going to make sure that we have all of the links and stuff in our show notes over on TeacherCast.net. And I hope you guys have a chance to like and subscribe to this show. We've got a lot of stuff going, and we hope that you guys are with us. And if you'd like to be featured on this show, please feel free to reach out. You can find me over at info@TeacherCast.net and all the other great channels. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm looking forward to catching up with you next week in Florida. And I hope everybody has a chance to share this with their friends, because there's a lot of stuff in here. And Matt, please come back on the show sometime.
Anytime. I look forward to seeing you next week.
I hope you guys are having a great start of this new year as many, many storms roll across the country. We're doing a lot of great things here at TeacherCast. Brand new redesign is going to be happening over the next few weeks. So stay tuned. Check out all the great stuff happening over at TeacherCast.net. And that wraps up this episode of Digital Learning Today. On behalf of Matt and everybody here on TeacherCast, my name is Jeff Bradbury, reminding you guys to keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.
You've been listening to the TeacherCast Educational Network, hosted by Jeff Bradbury. Please reach out to the show with all of your questions on Twitter @TeacherCast or online at www.teachercast.net. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And please take a moment to write a review in the App Store.